What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about what Insomniac could be making. This was a fun little post I found on Reddit, and it seems pretty darn official. It comes from the LinkedIn page of a worker at Insomniac, so unless they're making it up, which I don't see any reason why you would do that, we have kind of a confirmation of this. Now, it's not super shocking because, and even the answers that we could find of, what games are they working on, if you go by the leaks and you go by what they've said, there's a couple options. I want to try to get a little crazy and see what we can come up with, but just to look at the post really fast, again, according to a LinkedIn of an Insomniac dev, the studio is working on 3 games at the same time. One is obviously Wolverine, and the other 2 games have not been announced. And so, okay, now you start to think, right, what are those other 2 games? So the easiest 2 to say would, I think, be Spider-Man 3 and then Venom. The Venom one has always been, and I think probably always will be until we really find out, will be the most interesting, and most interesting meaning kind of just all the stuff that surrounds it, maybe not even necessarily the game itself, but Wolverine is an obvious one, right? Spider-Man 3, you got to imagine, and you think about Spider-Man 2, you think about how long it takes for these games to come out, you would hope that they're shooting for like a 2028, 2029 thing for Spider-Man 3. So that, to me, that's like right within range. Technically, if you wanted to go in order, right, you could say Wolverine, and then that's actually where it gets a little bit more spicy, because you'd say, okay, Wolverine, then Venom, then Spider-Man 3, or Wolverine, Spider-Man 3, then something else, and that something else could be Venom, or it could be, and I saw some people mentioning this, Ratchet and Clank. I think that's the fun one, right? That's the one that, there's signals, let's just say that. You could look, deeper into it if you want. Look, we generally kind of know the roadmap of Insomniac. We probably shouldn't know the roadmap, but we do because of those leaks, and Ratchet and Clank is on that roadmap. So, and I mean, I think even the year, I think, was 2029. Now, things have obviously shifted, and that's the tough thing, right? Because Wolverine, I think that's going to come in probably far later than they thought. Spider-Man 3, like I said, I think you'd want to shoot for 2028, 2029. But how do you make Venom and Wolverine work and then also get Spider-Man 3 out on time? I just, it's a little messy. However, I will say, because right now we're just speculating on the games, I do like to see it. I mean, I don't like to see, I don't want them to be burnt out or releasing these things in a rush to just try to beat the next game. But this is something that I think PlayStation really has to get back to, and maybe they never actually did in the first place, but when they were, I think, at their best, they had a little bit of a rhythm, and you had these studios that were at least somewhat capable of doing more than one thing at a time, right? I mean, honestly, the biggest one I would think of would be Naughty Dog, just being able to really rapid fire these kind of towards the late PS3 era, where you could do Uncharted 3 and then do The Last of Us 1, which was 2013, and then 3 years later, they did Uncharted 4. To be honest with you, even Uncharted 4 to The Last was part 2, that was 4 years. So, they had, up until that point, they were a very consistent machine. Insomniac, honestly, has been maybe the most consistent of all these people, all these developers, right? Just having game after game, mixing and matching, going back, I guess, to Resistance and then Sunset Overdrive and Spider-Man mixing with Ratchet and Clank. They've done a really good job. So, beyond anything else, you could debate, like I just said. There's only so many ways you can go. Wolverine and Spider-Man 3, I think, are 2 of them. Maybe you do Wolverine, Venom, Ratchet and Clank, and then the Wolverine team works on Spider-Man 3, so Spider-Man 3 would actually be the 4th game. I don't think so. I think the order originally as intended was Wolverine, Venom, Spider-Man 3. Venom might have been pulled out. I've said before, the Tony Todd thing is so rough and so odd. What do you do with that, recasting is probably the easiest and most obvious thing that would be brought up, but again, that one always seemed like it was kind of I don't know, it always felt a little off in the first place, that you wanted it, but could you actually make all that stuff work? But again, beyond the order and beyond how many games and which games are they, is that sense of okay, hopefully, you should think about it too, that canceled live service game, that took people, that took time, and that was around this era. You can go back in the last 2-3 years. Okay, that could have easily taken people away from Spider-Man 2 at the time. So Spider-Man 2 and its DLC, and then also Wolverine and maybe even the game after Wolverine, all of those games you could argue were affected or impacted because of that live service game. And now I actually liked that idea. I've said that before. Like, I think that kind of would have worked for at least like maybe half year, cool little co-op, just, I don't know, have these seasonal updates, bring new missions. Like, I think that would have been a lot of fun. But point being, they lost all that and they lost all that time. And that was time taken away from arguably 2 to 4 things, right? So it's like they're on a consistent pace that I think would be really good, and we'll see it in the next 2, 3, 4 years. But that, I feel like, probably impacted even more than we think it did, right? Wolverine leaks probably also impacted more than we think it did. But you let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and hope to see you all on the next one.